if you believe in your vision and the potential for what you're doing, you can't quit because you believe in it too much and you're in the game. So you're not thinking about, ooh, I might lose. Hey, you might hit the mountain and it's over. But until then, you are just trying something else until, and hopefully you're going to look up and you'll be like, I cleared the mountain because I kept trying something else and trying something else and trying something else. And I think that's both a gift that I've got and also a blade that I've sharpened by reading success stories and reading failure stories. The failure guys found a way to survive. Their life went on. The success guys were haunted by that success at some point and had to find a way to not get complacent. And so you know that's you're never out of school. Like the most successful people in the world are constantly in school trying to figure out how to keep those blades sharp. And I don't think it's about fear of failing. It's about just the relentless, I can do better. I need to do better. How am I going to sink more shots today?
Welcome to another episode of the Matthews Mentality Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Matthews, and today's guest is a true force in the world of health and wellness. Carl Daikeler is a visionary entrepreneur and the CEO and co-founder of the Beachbody Company, now known as BODi, B-O-D-I, a global leader in fitness, nutrition, and personal transformation. With a career spanning over 4 decades, Carl has pioneered innovative at-home fitness solutions that have impacted millions, including iconic programs like the P90X, Insanity, and 21 Day Fix. Since co-founding Beachbody in 1998, he's built it into a powerhouse platform, fundamentally changing how people approach health. Under Carl's leadership, the company went public in 2021, launched the BODi platform, and recently shifted to a holistic health esteem model focusing on mindset, mental wellness, and sustainable lifestyle change. He's also the creator of Shakeology. Did I say that right? Shakeology? Mm-hmm. Shakeology, the superfood shake with over 1 billion servings sold. Is that what you're drinking right now?
It's delicious.
Is it good?
Yeah.
I'm going to get me some of that.
I only had one sip. You want to pour some out? I give you
No.
What?
Turn the logo. Yeah, I get a little plug right there. Shakeology.
Shakeology.
The superfood shake with over 1 billion servings sold. Host of the BODi Experience podcast, a Tony Award-winning Broadway producer, and an active tech investor. Today, we're unpacking his entrepreneurial journey, how he's navigated massive pivots, and what it takes to stay relentless in your mission, even when the game keeps changing. Before we get started, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who would benefit from it. Carl, thanks for coming on the pod.
Thanks, Kyle. It's great to be here.
Yeah. Speaking of here, we are in, well, it's not sunny. It's a little cloudy. Got that June gloom early in Southern California. We're here in the beautiful San Fernando Valley, North Hollywood off Lankershim Boulevard. Appreciate you making the drive over from Malibu.
Yeah.
Boo.
Wasn't too bad.
On a serious note, how, if any, was impacted with the fires in the Palisades?
No, not this time. It didn't make it. We're deep in Malibu out west, but the Woolsey fire, that came right through the neighborhood. But no, this one was just an inconvenience because you lost power and the smoke and all that stuff. But we got lucky.
And is PCH still shut down?
Yeah. Can't, like, people say, hey, come meet us out for dinner. Like, no, you can't get there from here. Like, it's Malibu or nothing.
I'm not trying to make light of what is very much a tragedy, but it probably shuts down the traffic to Malibu. Is it crowds lighter out there?
Yeah, it's actually pretty unfortunate, particularly for like businesses, restaurants out there, because they don't get that Santa Monica traffic now. But it's also pushed any traffic that was using PCH is now on like the 101, and
it's just brutal.
You can't get around.
Yeah. So how'd you end up in Malibu? Are you from Southern California originally?
No, from Philadelphia, and Malibu was just a great place to live. You're from Southern California, that the sort of different pockets of the city really have completely different vibes. And in terms of raising a family and kids, Malibu felt good. And it's a bit of a drive to get everywhere, but felt better to sort of be away.
Sure.
And so you can go into work in Santa Monica, and you feel like you're part of a little city, but then you get home, man, and you are like in a whole different.
Yeah, you're in a different planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up. I moved a lot, but a lot of my spring and summers in the off season of football, because my old man played football. So from January to July, I was in Southern California in Agora Hills, and there was for $2 you could catch a beach bus at Agora Hills High at 7 a.m. down to Zuma.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I spent most of my summers.
Yeah.
Zuma Beach.
Short little breaks, closeouts.
I know. Yeah, the waves. Yeah, they close
Pounding
out.
into the sand.
Not a great break there, but if the tide was low enough, we could walk around at Point Doom. Is a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so is that what again pre-fire? Is that you driving to Santa Monica for work? Is that where you do your work?
Yeah.
Why don't you walk the audience? What does a day in the life look like for you right now?
Well, right now, look, you talked a little bit about the public offering, and that has been that couldn't have been timed worse. And the way we did it just very turbulent. But coming out of the pandemic, we went public via what's called a SPAC, Special Purpose Acquisition Company, and it's really so there's this public company that exists, and they're looking around for an operating business to put inside that public entity, and we did a three-way merger with that SPAC and a company called Mix, which is a sort of a Peloton type of stationary cycle, and at that point we were called the Beachbody Company, and SPACs went out of favor 3 months during the 3 months of our going public. And it's one of those things. Sentiment can turn on you kind of for no reason. It's a legitimate way to go public, particularly because the company was thriving and profitable. So it made sense for us to be a public company. But just going through this SPAC door was not popular. Particularly, it fell apart in the late spring of 2021.
Yeah, I was going to say there was and you would know better than I feel like there was an 18-month window where all you heard about was SPACs.
Yeah.
And then it was like shut off, and it sounds like it kind of shut off right in the middle of.
Well, we were like right at the end of it. Like DraftKings went out in a three-way SPAC, and it was super successful. But then it started to get abused, like, flying car companies, like companies that were still concepts that just shouldn't be a public company. We're using that as a vehicle, and then the trading was unrealistic, and it was not substantial. There was not substance to it. So we sort of got swept up in that. That was unfortunate, but really the thing that's been troubling when you talk about a day in the life of the CEO, we had this incredible run through really 2018. Just the company, we launched it in 98, and it was just growing. This concept of step-by-step fitness programs that sort of replace what you might get from a personal trainer who's showing you what to do day by day, move by move, but you just don't need a person there counting your reps for you and saying, come on, just make it virtual. And that model, starting with Power 90, ultimately the famous one was P90X and Insanity. 21-Day Fix was huge. That continued to grow through the DVD genre, and then ultimately went digital in 2016, and business continued to grow till about 2018. Then we lost the infomercial, and things sort of got weird, but then it all picked up, like as you would see a graph, straight up into the right when the pandemic happened. And like everybody in the in-home fitness space, the Pelotons, mirrors, tonals, and so on, it was like, oh, this is the way it's going to be now. Yeah. In-home fitness is what's going to pick up this latent demand of the 180 million people who are overweight or obese. And really what that did is it pulled demand forward and also brought people into in-home fitness who could not get to the gym because of the pandemic. So that fell apart. That unraveled in 2021, just as we went public.
Was when you say unravel, are you talking about the workout from home?
Yeah.
Like, because the world was opening up and people, and you push back if you disagree with my kind of framing of this, people were just dying to get out and be around people and get back to, feeling normal. And so it was like, no, I want to go to the gym. I want to be around other people in a class, as long as the pandemic side is kind of under control.
Well, that's one cohort of people. Yeah. That's the people who were gym people before. Yeah. There's this other cohort who had nothing else to do but maybe to work out at home during the pandemic. and couldn't go out and everything. And then when the pandemic ended, it was like party time. It was like spring break for a year.
Yeah.
Just to like get me the hell out of the house. So and we can go into that whole transition. It's the challenge now. So that's back to your question, a day in the life. My day is spent working on what is the innovation that is going to be a cost-efficient way for the tens, if not hundreds of millions of people, certainly globally, who are not proactive about staying active and being conscious about what they eat. How can we simplify it? How can we make it efficient to acquire those new customers, to influence those new starts with something that we call the total solution? And it's a creative riddle that I've been working on now for 26 years. Massive TAM, massive opportunity, but also massive headwinds and challenge, because it's a lot more fun to eat Doritos and watch TV than it is to get up early and do this work. But, with the advent of weight loss pharmaceuticals and stuff, people are like, oh, you know what? I would like to lose the weight. I would like to feel healthy. I would like to avoid a walker and a cane as I age. So let me start doing something now. And that's what BODi is about, trying to serve that demand as efficiently as possible. And it's a challenge, but it's an incredible challenge.
What are some of the more recently? I mean, we had Autumn on the show, and so maybe I'll lead you here. Is it through socials and influencers? But like, where are you finding, where are you finding it effective to reach these people with your products or services? In the grand history of Beachbody, now BODi, our MO, because we were very thinly capitalized at the very beginning, and I'd come from the infomercial space and knew that while infomercials, the predictable model of an infomercial, which for the audience, if you're younger than Stone, infomercial is a program length, 28-minute, 30-second commercial. And you could tell an incredible story. But what companies would do would put a celebrity in front of that. And, you'd have Vanna White talking about some teeth whitening thing or something. And they'd have testimonials on and doctors and whatever. I couldn't afford a Vanna White, a celebrity. So we said, you know what? People don't care that much about celebrities. What they care about is the credibility. Does the product work? So that has always been our model and continues to this day. Like the model is to surface incredible stories of success and people overcoming obstacles to achieve incredible things. And then the viewer sees that and goes, you know what? If they can do that, I can do that. And so what used to be an infomercial has now sort of morphed into this world of social media proof, influencers, and affiliates. Now, for a while, we had a multi-level marketing business, and that thrived. Incredible people, like incredible energy. But then domestically, coming out of the pandemic, the world sort of turned on MLMs and vilified it, and it was too difficult to get over the stigma. And there had been, because the pandemic had been so productive for multi-level marketers, because people were just like, I got to work at home, I'll do an MLM. Then when it got hard again, it had turned into real work again in 2021, the thing cratered. Mm-hmm. And we said, you know what, let's clean up the business. Let's make it an affiliate model and make it so that we can attract the whole TAM and serve the people that need this and not have to apologize for and step around this highly controversial business model of multi-level. And for the audience, TAM, total addressable market, huge TAM, right? A lot of 8 billion people on the planet. Not saying they're all trying to transform their bodies, but everyone, I think, to some degree could. I know I could choose to get healthier.
You look pretty good, man.
Well, I just, hopefully you don't kill me for that. I just finished a program I saw, 75 Hard, Andy Frisella. Yeah. So I had a guest on the podcast. Zach, what was about a year ago? Chris Pronger, who's a big NHL star, like one of the greatest ever, possibly the greatest defenseman ever. Zach's a hockey guy. I'm learning. Oh, really? I'm learning. So I'm just a mammoth guy, just huge. And when he was in town, he was telling me he was doing this program, 75 Hard, and So naturally I was like, well, if he's doing it, then I got to do it. And I waited about a year, I want to get those Doritos and, the soda, just kind of get my
Get
fill
your
of
quota.
it. Yeah. Get my quota, satisfy that.
Mhm.
But no, I just got off. So I'm back on the Doritos. So I'm just playing. But I guess a part of my, you touched on something earlier. You called it weight loss drugs. I assume it's like Ozempic.
Yeah.
How is that impacting your industry and or your company?
Yeah. At first, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
But then once you sort of get past the superficial, what this might be, and then you start to read the studies and see the sort of consequences, things they call like I think they call it Ozempic face. Because
Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's a thing because of the muscle loss that happens, and to some degree the malnutrition that can happen because the signals all get scrambled. So you're just like, I know I need to eat something, but I'm not getting signals in terms of what to eat. And often then it'll be carbs, it'll be something thin or empty, and but you really need more protein and you need more resistance training so that you're both maintaining or building muscle, which maintains the metabolism, and that is also helping strengthen and maintain bone density. If you don't have that and you're just doing the weight loss drug, you are really in trouble because your metabolism will drop and your overall well-being is going to weaken aggressively. And unless you fix your nutrition, you're not going to be able to build that back easily. So that has turned into demand for what we do because we simplify the approach. In fact, we even have a program on the platform, on the BODi platform called GLP-1 Fitness Formula, which is just sort of an easy approach to mostly lifting, but also some cardio so that people are not undermining their health with their desire to have this hack, but actually enhancing it so that maybe one day, once they, because they want to sort of use the GLP-1 to drop the weight. But I don't think people are like, oh, I'm going to do this shot forever. So they're going to need lifestyle to be able to maintain that. And that's what we really want to support, whether they're using the drugs or trying to work without them and see if that works. That's how we satisfy it, because the one thing that hasn't changed is people haven't gotten more time. So working out at home, 20, 25, 30 minutes a morning is a much easier thing to access than needing to go to the gym and put a whole program together.
Sure. Yeah, because, I don't know much about Ozempic, but looking at it through the lens of your business, on one hand, I would like, that could be a risk or something because it's like, I don't have to work out. I can just take this drug and I lose weight. And putting my CEO hat on, how do I navigate that? But maybe on the other hand, if they do lose some weight on an Ozempic, let's call it, they lose the 20, 30 pounds. Maybe that's the kickstart. That's phase one. And phase two is like, hey, I do feel better. Yeah. I look better. And this is the catalyst for me to take that next step and actually become physically active and get vascular exercise. And maybe it's not at a gym, it's at home, but do 25 to 30 minutes. So it's probably both those forces. Yeah,
I think that is a big opportunity for us. And in the competitive landscape, this is why I feel so good about our prospects. And, again, back to the first question, day in the life of the CEO. I am in an absolute sprint with a company that is very, very agile. We've done a lot of downsizing to keep it agile and simplifying the business model because, you've got all these equipment companies that are constantly inventing innovations to try to help people find a reliable way and an entertaining way to stay in shape. But it always wears out. Like you look at that bike, you look at that new contraption, you're like, oh, that's going to be the thing. And it's going to wear out. Where content, which is what we do, is something that we can reinvent constantly keep it entertaining. And that's why I think we have such an opportunity to serve both the weight loss pharmaceutical user, but also holistically, there's 180 million people just in the US alone who are overweight or obese. I think it's about 120 to 130 million of them are exposed to being type 2 diabetic. And that's outrageous. That's life we're talking about. That's the prospect of amputation and ongoing pain and being confined to a wheelchair or a scooter. in your 50s and 60s. And I don't think people want that, and that's who we're going to serve.
A day in the life of a CEO, in terms of just structure, what time do you wake up? How many hours a day do you work? Like, what's it like to be the CEO of a public company?
Well, it doesn't have much to do with being public, that's for sure, because that's just something, that sort of sits on the outside and observes you. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like working in a aquarium, but ultimately you just got to run a great business. And so to try to maintain my own healthy lifestyle, which is not easy, and it's one of the advantages that the company has, because I don't like working out that much. So I'm constantly trying to solve my problem. So I'll be up between 5 and 5:30, hit the cold plunge, hit a pre-workout energized, and then push play for a half hour, 45 minutes. And so I'll be at the desk by about 7:30. Usually that's the desk in my house, mm-hmm. working virtually, but I'll go to the office. We have a studio in Van Nuys here. And then I'll work, I'll be on it until 6 o'clock with very few breaks in there, eat at the desk, like everything's next thing. But I probably don't shut it off until about 9. I try to stop with the emails and stop with the catching up by then, but it'll sort of often stretch till 10, and then it repeats. And I would say that's a 6-day-a-week thing, with probably a couple hours on Sunday that are sort of preparation and cleanup.
So 7:30 in the morning to 9, 10 at night, 6 days a week. I mean, that's pretty hardcore. Why do you do it?
Because I love it. And, I'm not a big believer in work-life balance. I'm a big believer in solve problems, be creative, have fun, serve people, deliver decency and kindness and massive scale. And with that, massive productivity and profitability, which we've enjoyed as a company for most of our 26 years. The last few years have been the most difficult ones, but my job is to get this company back in a position of a growing, thriving, great public company. So it's in a turnaround, and I'm not a quitter, and I like to hustle. So what else am I going to do?
Yeah, you touched on not a big believer in work-life balance, and certainly from kind of the cliche of work-life balance, a lot of the younger people have been, I guess, raised in that school of thought. After you give me your answer, I'll give you my thoughts on it. But why not? Why are you not a big believer in the work-life balance?
I think it's a bit of a trick, honestly. I think that work-life balance is some sort of external ideal or picture painted in sort of TV shows and movies that scolds you if you're not sort of checking all the boxes and at some point in the day out kicking the soccer ball around with your kids and working on, doing puzzles in your living room and watching some TV. Like, I don't know what work-life balance means if you are called to creativity and innovation, then and that lights you up. Why would you want to balance off of that? I heard a podcast the other day where the guy was talking about there was a term about it, but it's basically the people who are innovators and creating and inventing things are the people who are they call it like neuro imbalance or something like ADHD or some on the spectrum in some way, mm-hmm. Dissatisfied if they're confronted with something that needs to be changed or broken or altered, and they're not on it. They just can't coexist with that dissatisfaction. So I don't know, maybe I'm on the spectrum, but solving the problems is what I wake up thinking about, and that doesn't shut off all day.
I think is it neurodiverse?
That's it.
Yeah.
Neurodiverse.
Neurodiverse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. So two things on the work-life balance thing. Just my opinion at this point in my life, and my opinions evolve over time is what I've learned, or my positions, I would say. The first, I think this concept of work-life balance is, it might even be conscious, but kind of a subconscious movement for below average people or below average motivated people to keep above average people from achieving. Because, and I'll speak for myself, anytime I'm, fallen into a rut of laziness or a lack of motivation, I see people out being productive, doing things, achieving things. It makes me feel bad about myself. And what do you do when somebody makes you feel bad about yourself? Is like you want to stop it. And so the best way to stop is figure out a way to stop them from making you feel that way, which is get them to be lazy like you, So I think that's a driver is, if I met you and I'm a work-life balance guy and you're not, and you're working really hard, and I'm like, where's your work-life balance, man? It isn't necessarily because I care so much about you and I want you to experience this amazing fulfilled life that I have because I have work-life balance at 28 years old. It's because like you're outpacing me. You're separating yourself, and it makes me feel like I'm being left behind. It makes me feel bad about myself. So I think that's part of it. The other opinion or theory I've developed on work-life balance is work-life balance is a good thing, but work-life balance to me is different. It's actual work-life balance, not work-day balance. I think a lot of people confuse work-life balance with work-day balance. Work-day balance is what I think you and I are talking about, where it's like in any 24-hour period, how much do you work, how much do you work out, how much do you spend time with your family, how much time do you spend meditating and reading and whatever it is. And especially early in a career, I just don't think that if you want to, respectfully, professionally, financially have great achievement, it's not really aligned with that. But over time, work-life balance in your 40s, 50s, 60s, God bless. Like, you just front load your career in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, and wealth compounds and professional success compounds. And if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, you want to just sit on a beach the rest of your life, okay, that's fine. If that's how you view balance, or spending a bunch of time with your family, which is very meaningful and very fulfilling. But I just don't think work-life balance for most people, especially early in their career, is it's something you can have and then also have this big life that you kind of go to bed every night dreaming about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that, look, I think we are enamored of things that just light up our lives, like things like, let me refer to some things. Recently, like the Ted Lasso series was a big hit, right? So you think about outliers: Ted Lasso, West Wing, the Hamilton Broadway show, or Taylor Swift and her Eras tour. And even, you're in your family's in the athletes. You think about the great athletes, the Michael Jordan, the work ethic of Kobe Bryant. These stunning achievements did not happen with work-life balance. They happened with such outrageous commitment and resilience and ability to get your ass out of bed first and be the last one to leave the office or leave the gym. That's where, the person that is constantly writing, constantly creating, pushing everybody around them, in the case of Ted Lasso, to put a team together that is so focused and aligned on the outcome. That's when something that the whole world ends up talking about. P90X is a good example. Here's something that everybody around me in the industry, both the fitness industry and that time the infomercial industry, said P90X was a terrible idea. Even Tony Horton was not excited about doing it. He wanted to do something that was more maybe accessible for the masses. And I said, well, look, I'm about to turn 40. I've never been really, truly ripped. I'd like to achieve what I see on the cover of like a Men's Health magazine once in my life. So I want you to put me through something for 90 days that's going to get me there. And I am going to go all in with that program. Like we called it the last hurrah. And for 2 years, we were relentless, and we put a creative team that I don't think has ever been equaled in terms of putting together a fitness program that just changed the game. And I'm super proud of that. And it's not going to always happen, but man, we were focused and some things went our way and we were so clear about the outcome. I didn't want work-life balance right then. I wanted to create something that was going to put a dent in the universe. And that's what it takes.
You mentioned Kobe Bryant. Again, staying on that work-life balance, is a lot of times the people espousing work-life balance, they worship guys like Kobe and Michael and, all those guys who, if you only knew their opinion on work-life balance, to your point, the worst work-life balance guys ever. In fact, they espouse the opposite. That their entire, like, if you look at Kobe's whole like Mamba mentality, the entire message of Kobe in any talk was his obsession to outwork and basically just, outlift, outshoot, outpractice, and ultimately outperform anyone else. And none of that, I don't think you would ever have heard Kobe talk about work-life balance. Certainly not when he was in, playing basketball.
Yeah, his pride was in how hard he would push, the new training approaches that he would have. The guy who was this guy Barron's would do body work on him, and I've had sessions with Barron's. It is the most painful type of massage I have ever had in my life, and Kobe was doing this multiple times a week. And it's just excruciating, but that's how you keep playing. That's how you overcome big injuries. And that is, there ain't nothing work-life balance about that.
No, I remember there was a video of Kobe and somebody said, he said, what was your motivation or what would you like for people to say about you as a player? And he said, the best compliment anyone could ever pay me or what I'd like my legacy to be is that people, when they talk about me as a basketball player, said, he gave everything he possibly had. He got he got every last drop of juice out of that orange. Like whatever he was meant to be as a basketball player, whether it's the greatest of all time or, up there or whatever, he got everything out of him. And it was a very, very powerful statement. I want to ask you that question. Like, what do you think people, whether it's at your company or worked in the past, how do you think people would describe you as a leader, as a CEO?
Geesh. I would say probably that I am demanding, that I am relentless, that I do not distance myself from the dirty work, from anything as small as handling customer issues that hit my radar for an individual, or completely reconstructing something that's broken about a business process. And hopefully if somebody's worked with me or for me, they felt like I was fair and that I would tend to say, I never expect somebody to do anything that I wouldn't do. Mm-hmm. But in general, I also know that I'm going to do things that I can't expect anybody else to do. And similar to what you said about Kobe, not putting myself in his league, but nobody's going to outwork me. And despite having been through some very difficult choices and choosing certain paths at an intersection that piss a lot of people off, I know what my vision is. I know what I think the potential is. And when my time is up here, I'm going to look back and go, I took whatever information and resources were available to me and pointed it at contributing this to society and inventing this, and I gave it everything I had. Hopefully it's going to be successful, but one thing I won't do is quit. And that's what I think people would observe.
Demanding, relentless. You touched on earlier, I think you said born and raised in Philly.
Yeah.
So, going back in time as a kid, growing up, junior high, high school, is that how you think people would have always described you as? Is your personality today, is that who you've always been, or is that something that evolved over time?
I don't know that outwardly it would have been observed that way, but I think inwardly it was. I have a gift of when I do something, I'm extremely focused about it, and that started really young. Funny story, when I was in elementary school, everybody else, first day of school, everybody's got their new backpack and they're heading to school. I carried a briefcase. So
you were locked in.
I was the second grader with a briefcase.
Were you a big kid?
No.
So did you get like made fun of or picked?
Oh yeah, totally. I was in farm country. So I was in farm country in the suburbs of Philadelphia, walking to school with a friggin' briefcase.
Yeah, you were locked in.
Yeah, I just loved it. Like, and where
do you think that came from? Like, why?
I really don't know.
Did your dad carry a briefcase? Was it something?
Yeah. No, that's where I got it. I was like, he would change his briefcase out. I'm like, can I have the old one? And my family were creative. They were inventors. And from my grandparents, my grandfather was sort of a famous sales and marketing entrepreneur in Philadelphia.
So it's in the blood.
Yeah. And my uncles were both great salesmen and promoters. I can remember my uncle ran for state representative in the suburbs of Philadelphia, and the creative stuff they did with no advertising budget just blew my mind. And I was 8 years old, and then the family. You talked a little bit about, that I'd won Tony's, which always makes me laugh. But I come from a theater background. Like, the family owned a piece of a theater outside of Philadelphia, summer stock. So I really had no desire to be on stage, but I loved everything about the business side of it and putting a show together and running it. And so at a very young age, challenges were put in front of me. So like, I was 10 years old, 11 years old, running sound, running the mics and everything for the State Theater of Pennsylvania. Like, the fact that they gave this 11-year-old kid that responsibility blows my mind.
It was before child labor laws?
Right? No, seriously. I would leave school, go straight to the theater, and set up the sound for the Fiddler on the Roof show that was going to happen at 8 o'clock that night. And and I loved it. So I was basically working full-time from like 5th grade till now. Like, and school was a necessary inconvenience.
Like a distraction.
Yeah, but I made it through school, then had a great run at college.
Where'd you go to college?
Ithaca College in upstate New York. And it was funny because I was originally rejected, and you talk about the relentless side. So I was rejected from, or what do they, turn you down, or I don't know.
They send you that one-page politely decline letter.
I got that polite incline, and I called the number on the piece of paper, and I said, a friend of mine is going to be up there interviewing at Cornell. I'd like to come in and talk to the dean. And so I got an appointment before lunch, went in, made my case for why I was going to be the best student to ever go through their communications program. And I said, I'm going to go to lunch with my friend, and I'll come back and find out if you have changed your mind. And sure enough, came back from lunch and they accepted me.
Are you the best or most successful student who's ever come through the
Probably not.
I mean, you've added, I mean, your resumes, the company you've built, your public CEO.
Bob Iger went through Ithaca, but he was way ahead of me. But actually, the major that I went through was called corporate organizational media. So it wasn't like TV, radio, or cinematography. So I bet you that in terms of taking corporate organizational media, which could also be like called instructional video type of thing, I would bet that the catalog of over 140 programs from my first video, which was with another company called 8-Minute Abs, which hit the zeitgeist and exploded.
And this was before 7-minute abs, right?
Well, that's the funny thing, right? Yeah, exactly. The fact
what was that? Was that something about Mary?
About Mary? Yeah. So the fact that I created this, had this little idea in the shower to articulate something through video, which is what I studied in college, and then built this catalog of over 140 brands: P90X, Insanity, 21 Day Fix, 80 Day Obsession, Morning Meltdown 100, Core to Force, 25-minute speed training. So like all this I bet you I'm the most successful at instruction video that came through that school. So I think I've done okay.
Put your name on a building.
Palmer Dyer was the guy's name. Palmer Dyer.
Dean Dyer.
Dean. Well, yeah, he was like the dean of the communications school, I think.
Have you ever? When was the last time you reached out to him or connected? Like,
he passed away.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, like,
ago. Yeah.
maybe shoot him an email. Just say, hey, I don't know if you remember, but this is what. But yeah, I can't do that.
No.
Wait. So all right. So you thought of 8-minute abs.
Yeah.
How'd you settle on 8 minutes?
Yeah. Had a good ring to it.
And
yeah, but like literally. So okay, here's the story. Friend of mine who I went to college with, he was a wrestler. And one time I visited him shortly after graduation, and he was in great shape because he had tendency to sort of blow up. And I was like, what happened? What did you do? And he said, oh, I'm doing this thing. It was like Abs of Steel or something.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you're doing this videotape? That's what? And he goes, yeah, they're just 10 minutes long. And I looked at the tape and I was like, no, it says 60 minutes. He said, no, they're little 10-minute things. I'm like, oh my God, they left the hook out of the name. I would have never known that. So that's sort of just, this is what I do. So there's a little data point. And I'm like,
sure,
there's something there. And one day I was just like in the shower, I was like, oh man, why? This muffin top, like what happened to me? I'm like, if I just did one of those things that he was talking about, I could get results. If I just 10 minutes a day. I'm like, well, 10-minute abs, that's not a very good name. I wanted to create a product. And 9-minute abs, no, 8-minute abs. That has a good ring to it. And so the company that I was working with at the time was called Telemerica Media. I walked into my partner and was like, look, for around 50 grand, I think we can create 6 or so workouts. They're all going to be 8 minutes long and we can sell them on TV. And that was the birth of 8-minute abs.
Did you ever worry about 7-minute abs though?
No. Because it's hard to do. Like it's not hard to create the video. It is really hard to put the model together that sells them efficiently. But I'll tell you that I was literally in the movie theater watching Something About Mary. I did not know this was coming.
I was going to ask. Yeah, that was my next question.
It was like the world was spinning around me. Like, what just happened?
You want to stand up like, I created that.
I know. It was so wild.
I thought you were going to say, no, what are you talking about? You can't do abs in 7 minutes.
They'll never work.
They'll never work.
Yeah. Well, oddly enough, that's the funny part of the story. So when I started this company, Beachbody, the first product we did, I was like, well, it worked so well back there. We literally created a 7-minute ad program called Great Abs Guaranteed.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's
and
fun.
it worked. It was great.
All right, let's start. Let's talk about starting Beachbody.
Okay.
All right. When was this? What was the impetus, the inspiration? Why then? Why did you start it? Why did you start your own?
Yeah. So I was probably 35. And I had started a company, this Telemerica Media Company. I had started that with a partner, had some success creating little products, selling them on TV. But he and I wanted to sort of go different directions, particularly when 8-minute abs took off. I was like, there's something here. It's very agile and it's not capital intensive. So let's do more of this. And he said, no.
What year was this?
96.
And so was it still VHS at the time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I had been through the process. This is how you know that your career needs stops along the way. Generally for people, you don't go right to, let me start this company and build it huge, because I had to learn things. So he and I had raised $2 million together to start that company. And so once I left that business and I sold my interest, I had a little bit of cash, not a lot. But I remember I was sitting at a brunch one day and I was wondering, like, do I have enough ideas that if I raised a little bit of money that I could see if I could recreate that success myself? So I literally took the placemat and I wrote down the ideas that I had for products. And one of them was Great Abs Guaranteed. And so I just sat with it and thought with it. And I had been working with a guy, John Congdon, who he and I got along great. We were super good friends and he complimented me really well.
How so?
I would be the idea guy and then he would really help me implement it. Sort of COO type of material. Okay. So, but he was,
you were the Jobs, he was the Was, right?
I suppose that's the way you could look at it. That's tough to put myself in that league.
No.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Relationship wise, yes.
Yeah.
And So he and I said to him, hey, you want to start this? I want to start this company. I'll raise the money. Do you want to give it a shot? He said, yeah. So we raised $500,000. I had a mentor out of Philadelphia, Pete Albert, and he introduced me to a bunch of people. We had some cool guys. You spent some time in Philadelphia. Billy Cunningham, who was the former player, and he was the head coach of the 76ers in the Julius Erving days. He was one of our initial investors. This nice group of angel investors out of Philadelphia. And sure enough, Great Abs Guaranteed and Thin Thighs Guaranteed worked. And then the first hit was this Power 90 program, which was basically replicating a thing that I'd learned in high school. That's where we found Tony Horton to create that program. He was just a friend of mine. And we managed to run that company without raising more capital. In fact, we bought all of the angel investors out. They got an 11-time return within 3 years. And it's been iterations on that theme ever since.
You had mentioned earlier, I wrote down thinly capitalized. Yeah. How much did you raise?
$500,000.
Raised $500,000.
Yeah.
This was what year?
This is 1998.
Yeah. Okay. So $500K, and you returned to them, I guess, $6 million, right? In 3 years. It's not a bad IRR.
No, it's fantastic. And, and it was good because I basically bought them out, and it let me then consolidate my ownership and maintain control. To this day, I'm the controlling shareholder of the public company with super voting. And so I can keep it on the rails of innovation that we want. But that's where we got, people talk about, is luck a part of business? You only get lucky if you are, let's use a fishing analogy. Is it lucky to catch a fish? You sort of put this thing, so there's some luck. The thing needs to see the bait and swim by it and bite it and hook enough that you can get it in the boat. But you need to know, you need to be in the right place. Mm-hmm. You need to be patient enough and keep casting, or put multiple lines in there.
And you choose the lures that may work better than others.
Yeah. And there might be some luck in there of that choice. So that's the way I was approaching it. We basically said, for $500,000, I'm going to create 5 initiatives, products, and whichever one works first, that is the direction the company's going to go. So like it was going to be fitness and music and housewares and beauty and whatever category hit first. But the first one we did was fitness, and it took off. So we renamed the business. It was Product Partners at first, and then we renamed it Beachbody.
And so this is, you returned their capital roughly 2000? 2001?
Yeah, 2001.
And so you were a private company for 20 years? 21
years.
Yeah, 23 years, excuse me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And walk us through the growth of the company. I mean, it sounds like it started with you and your partner, and ultimately, I mean, you guys got pretty big, yeah?
Yeah, it got really big. Never as big as my vision for it. It has never achieved that. But honestly, when I first started, I remember having a conversation with John, and I was like, do you think we could make this $100 million business?
100 million of enterprise value, 100 million revenue?
100 million revenue.
Yeah, sure.
I wasn't sophisticated enough to think about enterprise value. I didn't have an exit plan. I was basically violating all the fundamentals of good entrepreneurship. But, I just thought, hey, if we can figure out how to create an AOV, or average order value, of $100, we need 1 million customers. So that was sort of the way we went about it, and targeting $100. And, it took us till I think we crossed over 100 million, I want to say 2003, maybe 2004. And then some shifts in the business, had a major existential crisis, 2004, 2005.
What was the existential crisis?
The magic of business is always, how well do you create demand? And can you do that? Can you create that demand profitably within your business model? And we caught a gap. The winds fell out of the sails in late 2003, going into 2004. Had to lay off a bunch of people, and find a bit of reinvention. And that's actually when we had had kicked off P90X. We had to thin the herd of the number of things we were developing, and but also spin up other things that we felt like were very reliable bets. That's when we initiated a plan to build a beauty business vertical, and also to build the multi-level marketing business. And those needed some time to gestate. It took basically, so P90X launched in 2005, but didn't really take off until 2007, which again could have been an existential moment, because 2007 going into 2008, you got a real economic crisis, but P90X just exploded.
Do you think part of that had to do with the economic crisis, people canceling their gym memberships?
Could have been. Could have been. You know, I can't directly correlate it. I think that's where you get into luck and multiple forces coming together. That the housing crisis and fear, and then here's this thing for $120. You know, people would say, how can you sell videos for $120 for a box of 12, 13 DVDs? And I'm like, well, I'm not really selling DVDs. What I'm selling is the same results you can get with a $1,500 Bowflex for $120.
And did P90X come with like some sort of contraption?
No. You would need a way to do pull-ups. So we had a pull-up bar.
Maybe that's what it is. Because I was going to say, I'm that customer. So I'm in real estate. I'm 26 years old. It's 2007 and 8. And like, you know, commercial real estate, literally like the epicenter of the GFC. And the economy is collapsing. The real estate economy is imploding.
What's GFC?
Global financial crisis, Great financial crisis. Just a pretty shitty period of time for us in real estate. So 2008, 2010, 2007, 2008, I start seeing it coming down. I'm spending, you know, I don't want to make this up, probably $150 a month at like Sports Club LA, you know, right off of the 405 here in Santa Monica. And I'm only going there once, twice a week. I'm working a lot, you know, long hours. And so I cancel that. I buy a P90X. Yeah, I did that. I lived that life.
There you go.
I don't know if I ever actually did it, but I bought it, you know?
Yeah. Well, it slid conveniently under your bed. If you wanted to store
It's probably still there. I might need to do it. But I actually want to, you know, go back, just double click on the 2003, 2004 existential crisis. I'm convinced, half the reason why people don't shoot their shot and start the business and, you know, really go for it all is fear of failure, right? And just the fear of like, well, what if this happens? And this being something terrible, which starting a business is like running out of money, going bankrupt. It sounds like you were faced with that possibility in 2003 and 2004, and maybe multiple times throughout your career, if I had to guess. You know, being a business owner, you know, there's, you know, just everything ebbs and flows. Like, how did you approach that from a mindset mentality standpoint? How did you mentally get through that, let alone the actual, you know, the strategy and the chess moves, you know, to navigate your business? But I want to like really understand more about internally, mentally, like how you pushed yourself through these what sounds like very challenging trials and tribulations.
I don't know. Like I wish I could say something that's well formed that somebody could emulate, except you just keep going. Like what people say of never quit. As long as you see certain sparks of potential that you're not like if you're not convinced that it will work, like I've always been convinced that it will work. It's just a matter of iteration and innovation. So I've always believed. And once you truly believe and you also are enamored of the potential and the upside, like I can't believe that there's not a single company that is quote unquote the leader in holistic health and wellness. There's leading fitness companies, there's leading nutrition companies, but nobody has put a whole healthy habits business together, fitness, nutrition, and mindset, except for BODi. And I think that is a $1 trillion opportunity. So how am I going to stop that? How am I going to quit that? What am I going to go do instead? What other opportunity is there? No leading brand and 180 million people in North America who need it. Like, I don't know of another opportunity like that.
No,
People ask me.
That's a big market.
Yeah. So people say, what would you do if you weren't doing Beachbody? Like, if you didn't have this company to run? I have no idea. Like, I don't think it would be produce Broadway shows. I don't think that would serve me with what I need. I need to solve problems.
It's interesting. I've had the privilege of sitting in this chair and interviewing a lot of high achievers like yourself, and it's always, I guess, funny to me when I ask them, like, how did you overcome the fear of failure, right? And they're just like, so many people struggling. I was like, what do you, what's the, and the answer is almost always like, what's the alternative, right? Like, fear of failure. Yeah. And what I've kind of pieced together, let me know if you agree, is that there aren't necessarily people who don't have fear of failure. You probably have it. I can speak for myself. I have it. And then the idea of failing when you start a business is very real, and it's a lot. And if my business were to fail, it would be really hard. It would be hard for me personally but what people don't talk about, and let me know if I'm accurately describing maybe you as well, is, it's like, I have fear of failure, but there's actually a greater fear that nobody talks about. It's called like the fear of non-achievement, the fear of like doing nothing and just existing.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, well, okay, so my fear of failure, the way I framed the question, would have prevented me from starting a business. Like, well, my fear of just doing nothing and being a nobody or just existing is actually much greater than going for something significant and really shooting my shot and failing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's from my perspective, it's framed wrong. I think that particularly like if you're an athlete, when you're playing the game, somebody who's playing the game, they're not fearing losing. They just want to perform constantly at their best. So you're not playing the game with the fear of the loss. You might have even started the game not wanting to lose, fearing the loss. But once you're in the game, it's kind of like, you've seen enough business success stories, the story of the formation of Nike or Starbucks, like these major things that at so many points in their existence, they should have been wiped out. And if you pay attention, you're like, wow, somebody had the resilience to keep going, and then something went their way. If you believe in your vision and the potential for what you're doing, you can't quit because you believe in it too much and you're in the game. So you're not thinking about, ooh, I might lose. Hey, you might hit the mountain and it's over. But until then, you are just trying something else until, and hopefully you're going to look up and you'll be like, I cleared the mountain because I kept trying something else and trying something else and trying something else. And I think that's both a gift that I've got and also a blade that I've sharpened by reading success stories and reading failure stories. The failure guys found a way to survive. Their life went on. The success guys were haunted by that success at some point and had to find a way to not get complacent. And so you're never out of school. Like the most successful people in the world are constantly in school trying to figure out how to keep those blades sharp. And I don't think it's about fear of failing. It's about just the relentless, I can do better. I need to do better. How am I going to sink more shots today?
Is that mentality, is that inherently possessed? We explore the nature versus nurture. Is it you just born with that, or the top athletes were just born with that, or the top business performers, or is that something that you can learn and develop? And if so, where would you recommend people go to develop that mindset?
Yeah. I'm quite sure it's something that is nurtured. Hopefully there's a seed of it in you of, I want to achieve something. But then it's the proactive seeking of, how did they do it? And learning from other people and constantly educating yourself and paying attention to people who overcome radical odds. Just watching, like I could watch a football game. And was it when the Patriots beat, was it Atlanta that they came out like it was like they were like 40 points down or something ridiculous, right? It was a Super Bowl, right?
Unfortunately, my cousin Jake Matthews was the starting left tackle for the Falcons. So yes, 28-3 late in the third quarter, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. An outrageous comeback though.
Yes. Oh, so great.
Unbelievable. And you go,
Awesome.
so you're watching that game and you're thinking, no way. It's done. How are they going to do this? Oh, the poor advertisers of the second half, because nobody's going to be watching this game.
So my wife took my kids to the park, and so that me and some of my buddies can watch the game. And I'll say this. Sorry, Jake. I'm going to say this on air. They were up 28-3. I turned the game off.
Right.
I turned the game off. We started watching, we were binge watching, what's that show? Silicon Valley. Uh-huh. And my wife walks in the house and she looks at me. She goes, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I go, what's up? She goes, the game. I go, what about it? She goes, oh my God, you're not watching. I go, no. And I turn it on and it's in overtime and the Patriots have it on like the 2-yard line. And I watched one play, they scored, game over. And I was just like, how did that happen?
Right.
So yeah, sorry, Jake, didn't watch the end of the Super Bowl, but I'm actually glad I didn't.
But that's the point though. The point to your question is they just didn't stop. Look, the clock's going to run out, or if you're a company, you could run out of your cash resources and you don't have the ability to raise more. And then if the clock runs out there's nothing you can do. But until that happens, do not stop. Don't turn the lights off. Get up early. Figure it out, man. That's all you can do. And that's where great innovation comes from. You're this close to the breakthrough. And shame on you if you back off then and go, you know what? I need some work-life balance. Screw that.
There's been so many iterations and changes in your business over the last 25 years. And just from, kind of an outsider's perspective, there's VHS to DVD to infomercial to influencer socials. And you've done a great job pivoting with so many different concepts and changes, right? Yeah. How has the last 25 years as the CEO of this company, from small private to large private to public, how has it changed you personally, both as a businessman, a professional, and also, in your personal life as a family man?
Well, I've definitely seen the damage it does from the family perspective, because I have a hard time being present. And when confronted with the challenges of relationship, I tended to throw myself at work instead of attending to those things. I like to think that I show up for my kids in general, but I know that I have not taken family vacations like my family did, where we had 2 weeks and there was really no work being done. Mm-hmm. And it's been a solid 15 years where I have not taken a vacation where it was not 60% work, 40% trying to vacation, So I would say that is something that I've watched, particularly since the pandemic, where it's been very acute. It hasn't been pleasant or fun. I haven't quit, but that's taken a toll.
It's weighing on you.
Yeah, and particularly turning 61 is a really interesting thing. Like, you get to be 61 and you start to you start to see, and your parents are getting older. So you see, oh, this is going to end at some point, and reinvention starts to get more difficult at some point. And I can't say that I've fully decoded that, but I am navigating the very different dynamics of life at 61 and dramatically aging parents. And that's just a different perspective. And I can't say that you're going to have me back. And I can tell you what's the conclusion.
Well, yeah, a couple things. Cause I do a lot of vacations with the family. I got 4 kids and my wife, we do a very good job of like making sure we do that. But on vacation, I'll take calls. I wouldn't say 60%, but, there are times I'll beat myself up over that. Like, God dang it. Like, I just spent 3 hours, on 3 calls and I'm in Hawaii or I'm in wherever. And, and you kind of go to your parents, like, well, my parents, and my wife does a good job. She's like, well, they also didn't have technology. They couldn't work if they weren't in the office. So there is some of that, but, it sounds like you've identified this as a problem, and it doesn't, again, just reading your body language, don't necessarily like it. let me ask the question that an audience member might be just like, well, why don't you just not take the calls? Like, just go for 2 weeks. Is it you've created this existence in your head that if you disappear for a week or two, the company will fail? Is that like how you feel?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say it quite the same way.
Yeah.
Because I really don't think about failure. I just think about, like I am so 24/7 about this innovation and the people that we can help. And I know it sounds like bullshit, like, well, another CEO. But it's like the reward for me, the gratification when I get contacted by somebody whose life is transformed when they lose 40, 50 pounds or they navigate some personal crisis because they've kept their lifestyle in check. And I know that there's 100 million more people that I got to reach. It's very difficult for me to say, let's go build sandcastles. It's just, I can't get my head around it. I'm sure there's some smart analyst therapist out there going, well, this is pretty classic. And okay, if I'm a cliche, I'm a cliche, but I'm pretty sure that Kobe, when he went on vacation, was still either training or in some way sharpening his blades and didn't pick his feet up off the gas for more than a day. And that's sort of the way I live.
And do you see yourself doing that for the next 10 years? Or you kind of touched on maybe at turning 61, reevaluating, again, it was a very deep answer you gave, but kind of just reevaluating where you are. I mean, is this, you see yourself for another 10 years going full speed the way you are, or is it just unique to the challenging period of time you touched on you're in right now?
I don't know. I don't think I'm wired to have to try to make that decision. It's going to present itself to me. I don't think, I don't know how effective I'll be at 71, what mental acuity is still going to serve me, or how much if I'm going to be the right one to serve this initiative. So, right now I'm thinking 2 to 5 years out, and I better achieve something big, or I'm not living up to my calling. And so that's as far out as I'm thinking. And I am not thinking at all what might be for me at 5 years. That'll present itself at the time. And I don't need to start creating that now.
And probably some of that has to do with the success that BODi has over the next 5 years, right? And so speaking of BODi's success, what do you think the health industry is getting wrong today that in some way you guys are looking to solve?
I think that, I think that traditionally the business has weaponized flaws to get weaponized flaws that people have to get them to buy a product. So, vilify being overweight or not looking the way you want to look, which is one of the reasons that we changed the name from Beachbody, which wasn't the intention, but it ends up connoting an ideal and wanting it to be more benign so that people are just that loving your body, BODi, equated to just show up for yourself one day and then a second day. And don't worry so much about the outcome, but understand that your entire life is going to be enhanced by showing up for yourself in this way, consciously thinking about what you're eating and how you're fueling yourself, consciously thinking about the importance of the pain of this workout and how it enhances your comfort and mobility and agility throughout life for the rest of the day. And I think that overall, the industry tends to, or has tended to, not think holistically that way. And what Beachbody and now BODi has done really well, I think we're the only company that has synthesized the total solution, meaning fitness, conscious eating, not dieting, but what am I eating and why? And what is the consequence of this food going to be? positive or negative, and what supplements, what is the quality of the supplements? What do I know about these supplements that might enhance fitness and nutrition? And that's what the BODi modus operandi is put those three things together to be the one company so that people don't have to guess. You know, everybody's got access to workouts on YouTube. Oh, it's all free. Go for it. Have a good time. But nobody gets results because it's not step by step. It's not structured. There's not a plan. Right, exactly. Yeah. So you go 2 weeks in and you get the cortisol effect and you're sore and you're retaining water and your clothes are fitting tighter and like, this is stupid. This isn't working for me. So you quit and you go, oh, well, fitness isn't my thing. No, what's not your thing is no plan and no feedback to understand what is the process. And that's what BODi has done for 26 years. It's create programs that integrate fitness and nutrition and then test them with 50 to 100 people, validate that you're going to get the results. If you follow this, you're going to get the results you expect. And if you don't, then either something was off with your approach and you weren't honest with yourself about it, or perhaps maybe there's an underlying hormonal issue or something else that you can identify. But that's what we do well that I don't think anybody else does well. Everybody else is sort of a set of tools, but you're still left to your own devices unless you hire a trainer or a dietitian to figure it out. And that can be very expensive to try to solve that problem, that we try to be the most cost-effective approach.
Yeah, I think, the key to being healthy, no matter what approach you take, is discipline, and really structure is the gateway to discipline. Like, it's hard to be disciplined without structure in your life, professional structure, health and wellness structure, even structure in your personal life and your families is having structured days, structured weeks. Gotcha, Zach. You've spoken about the imperfection economy. I think you've kind of touched on that. Share with the audience what you mean by that and how that fits into kind of your day-to-day.
Well, I think the best example, which isn't particularly pertinent to our business, but cosmetic surgery. I think we've all witnessed people who you can see they went in for some sort of rhinoplasty. Maybe they got a nose job or they got a tuck here, a little pull there, and then they get infatuated with other imperfections and they can't stop. And the people providing those procedures, they're perfectly willing to sell them more Botox, more of this, all these things.
There's a lot of money in that, right?
But you can watch a person's face become disfigured as they're focusing on imperfections and they're not seeing what's happening, and they become consumed by this. And we see this with eating disorders and or training disorders, overtraining, when people get so infatuated with their imperfections that is what is driving them, and it is very commercially profitable to play into that imperfection economy. One time, though, I remember my kids were looking over my shoulder. I was working on an advertisement, and it was talking about get the flat-toned, sexy abs you've always wanted, and my kids were looking over my shoulder, and I was like, I don't love this is what I'm reinforcing for them. Mm-hmm. And so if I'm reinforcing this for them, looking over my shoulder, and then putting this on TV, I am reinforcing that for tens of millions of people. And not that the desire to have flat-toned, sexy abs is a bad thing, and it's a fine aspiration, but I don't want to be the one teaching it. Mm-hmm. So that's when we created the category of what we call health esteem, that just showing up for yourself, doing a 10, 20, 30-minute workout is a success in and of itself. Being mindful of your portions and your macros and how much water you're drinking, how you're talking to yourself. We have a thing on the app called the BODi Power Mindset Project, which is multiple episodes of helping people manage their mindset so that if they do go off the rails, they can get themselves back on the rails without hating themselves, without beating themselves up. That's what we want to be in the world, and that's sort of the maturing of an evolution of what BODi is, and hopefully putting us in a position to, I think, solve what is a disservice that the health and fitness business can often perpetuate. I
love to ask this question kind of towards the end, and I get to ask it two ways with you, is from a professional sense, what do you see to be the most common characteristic, trait, attribute, behavior, anything of people that have worked with, but more so for you as the CEO, that has led to tremendous success professionally? And then I get to ask a second way: what is the most common characteristic that has led people to success in the health and fitness side, right? You have 25 years experience now running this company, both, again, people from a career standpoint or even from a personal health standpoint. What seems to be the most common reason why people actually get to where they want to go?
Action. That's the big one. From whether it's employees or what we call super trainers, our celebrity trainers that help create the programs, or senior management. Action is such a powerful force. And, I see people, particularly younger people who have worked for us, who are content to be the cool people in the studio or the cool people in the office and gregarious, but they're not taking action. And if they're not taking action, it means that they're not creating some productive output. And if that's not happening, then the ecosystem is not turning to them for more productive output, which means that their career starts to atrophy within the company. It's the people taking action and recognizing, oh, this will be a productive action for me to take. Those are the people who are inherently recognized or rewarded because something happens from it. Again, you interviewed Autumn Calabrese, okay? By far the most prolific trainer I've ever worked with over the course of our 26 years. And we've worked with outrageously powerful people: Tony Horton, Shaun T, Chalene Johnson, so many, Joel Freeman. But Autumn, literally will wrap a program, and I can set my clock by how long it's going to be before there's another idea fully thought through that she wants to start in development. And I'll resist it because it's too soon. We just finished that thing. It's not, but she is taking action.
She just never stops moving.
And right. Constantly improving her game and learning and surrounding herself with experts. And it's just like, that's a star. You can't turn away from that. And far be it from us or me as an executive to say, sorry, you're coming up with too many ideas. What sort of stupid would that be? So I've had the same thing with employees who were like, idea. And you have to listen to them. And they're the people that get into my office and we have long conversations. And other people are like, oh, you only like that guy. You really only take, no, that's the guy who walked the idea in and was set up and knew how to argue for the idea. And I knew that if I didn't proceed with that idea, he was going to walk out of here and go develop it with somebody else. So sure as hell is going to develop that idea. So action is the thing. And anybody listening to this, if they're proactive about trying to recognize what is the most leverageable action that I could take today, those are the people who are going to move faster and they're going to compound faster because they're going to take action on top of action, and not mindlessly scroll, mindlessly try to just hang out and be cool. And no, I don't want to hustle too hard because that won't look cool.
Work-life balance.
Yeah, right? It comes back to that.
Yeah, idle hands are the devil's workshop too. So I found when I don't do anything mentally, you go to a bad place. And when you stay busy, stay moving, motion, just keep making shit happen.
And that's a muscle that people need to recognize. Yeah. If somebody might be listening to this and be like, well, I just don't do that. Just like if you don't lift, of course you're weak and it's going to be hard to do a push-up, or a pull-up's going to feel impossible. But if you start to take some action, man, you have no idea how fast your stamina and strength can return. It gets so fast. And it's the same thing with once you start to apply some action and take some risk and interrupt at meetings and go, like I said to you here, what was it, GDF? Something? Okay. So like, I'm like,
GFC. Yeah.
GFC. Okay. I'm like, well, what was that? Like, am I supposed to sit here and act like I knew what that was? So I get that in acronym hell in meetings, and I'm always impressed when somebody's like, what does CPA mean? Cost per acquisition. What does AOV mean?
Yeah.
Average order value.
Look, I wrote that down. I was like, what the fuck is CPA? I wrote that down. I was like, oh, cost per acquisition, because that's not an acronym we technically use.
People use CAC or CPO. Yeah. So people taking action, people who build that muscle of, I need to understand this. These are the people that get ahead. Those are the people that, as management, you go, oh, this person has some guts and they care enough to have asked that. I want you on the team of my next thing. That's where you start to recognize and polish greatness. And
you kind of touched on this is the opposite. What has been the most common theme in people who just either you have to fire them, they don't get the promotion, their business fails. Like what seems to be a common thread amongst those individuals? Inaction, but I mean like the opposite of it.
Yeah. I can only, it's tough to bucket that, but I would say, I can remember I walked into a bar restaurant to have dinner one night, and I saw a group of employees, and they were partying really hard, and really hard. And I went over and I said hi, and I was like, hey, this is a great place. And they're like, yeah, this is our place, man. This is where we are, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I was like, oof, that makes a lot of sense. Because like when I was thinking about what is my impression of them, these are the people who show up a little bit late and are the ones that are whining if lunch is a little bit late. If the lunch break is a little bit late, and they're the first ones to be excited that it's the weekend. And it just lined up. And it wasn't impressive. I didn't judge it, but I'm just saying from a business perspective and an achievement perspective.
It made sense.
It made sense.
Yeah. It's like, you say you don't judge it, and I've no doubt, but it's I don't know what the difference of judging and evaluating, but it's certainly evaluating. Oh, okay. Like,
when I say don't judge it, I'm like wagging my finger. No, I'm not their daddy.
No.
But at the same time, I don't have to feel guilty about not moving them forward in their career, because I can see in the work product that partying, leisure time, and gossip are the currency that they most value, and that is not serving me. So they don't become part of the core team.
I had asked you to describe yourself as a boss, and you had a couple of edges. One that stuck out was relentless. Then we spoke about discipline and structure, and then I asked you, what's the most common trader theme? You said, get busy, motion, right? Stay busy. Where would you point someone to help develop these skills or these characteristics and attributes? Is there a, just like, hey, I want to get in shape. You're like, great. Let me point you to these programs we have, right? Going back to 8-minute abs. But where would you point someone to developing discipline, developing relentlessness, developing, staying busy and staying in motion? Are there books? Is there kind of like in your business on the fitness side, is there a series of videos or people they should follow that can help develop those things?
I'm sure there are. I don't have a handy one to say plug into this one.
Is there any resource just that has helped you over?
Personally, I've been reading business books since I was 10.
There you go.
I can remember one of the first books I read was called The Cool Fire, which was about the TV industry. And I was like, oh, that is cool. And so I read that, and then I started to read, there was like a book about the titans of media. And that was a page turner for an 11-year-old. So constantly be reading, constantly be paying attention. I'm not the kind of person that gets enamored of celebrities and fame, but you introduce me to a business titan, and I could spend a few hours trying to understand how they're wired. Mm-hmm. So that curiosity, and but also beware. Curiosity and the need to learn can also be an obstacle to action. And the main thing is, like, similar to what you would say to somebody who wants to start training, don't just delay it looking for the perfect program. Just start walking at night. Just so in this case, get your placemat and start writing your ideas. What are the ideas? What are the problems that you recognize? Actually, let's just double click on that, Kyle. Everybody that's listening to this encounters problems all day long. If you start to pay attention to the problems that you're encountering and go, how could I solve this so that it's easier to, my tires are a little flat. Now, this is really inconvenient for me to pump my tires up. There's got to be something that I could invent that would make it easier for me to pump my tires. Like, everything all day long is presenting us with current existing demand that's available to us if we're paying attention for problems that need to be solved. And then you will find the problem that you are uniquely skilled to solve, or that you have an appropriate idea that then you can start to pursue. And the secret is going to be taking that first step to start to pursue that solution. And that's where breakthroughs happen, and where people will go, well, I don't know technology. I don't know how to, the resources to do that kind of thing. That means that you are probably uniquely wired to be able to solve it, because all the people that do have that expertise already think they know everything about how those problems are solved. So they're not encountering the problem through the same lens as you, which is why, by the way, I've been really good at creating programs so that I've got 140 in this catalog. It's because I don't like working out. It does not come naturally to me. So my company creates programs and nutrition solutions better than other companies, because I'm still trying to solve my own problems. So our solutions are what the people that share this problem are looking for. And that's what I would advise any entrepreneur.
That's great. Speaking of problems, or programs, I should say, nutrition solutions. I'm trying to think of ways, or just you got a problem of like, I need to get in better shape. Go to, for everyone listening, if you want to learn more about Carl and everything happens at BODi, head over to BODi.com, BODi.com, and be sure to follow Carl on Instagram at Carl Daikeler and LinkedIn. And this has been great. I really appreciate you coming on. If you guys got value from this episode, don't forget to follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn. Just search Kyle Matthews. Check out more episodes of the Matthews Mentality Podcast. Carl, I really enjoyed this. I've taken a couple weeks off, admittedly, but just sitting here, I was like, man, I got to get back on. I got to stay busy. I got to be relentless. I have to stay in motion, right?
Good. Then mission accomplished. That's why I'm here.
But thanks again. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you, Kyle.
Appreciate you.